big crowd in attendance. They have been racing a local round of the AMA Championship over there. And, of course, a lot of fans coming out to see that action, as well as the World Superbike regulars do their thing. Troy Bayliss on the outside position there of row one will get the good angle going into the first turn. They come up the hill through the fast kink across the top of the hill and then into the slow, long left-hander, which takes them back to the new infield section, which has been there at some time. 28 laps we're going racing. This is race one of round 9 of the World Superbike Championship. A good start from Colin Edwards. Frankie Keeley got the Suzuki in the air, couldn't get the power down. He missed the start, but Edwards one of the best away. Bayliss didn't get such a great start from pole position, but it is Colin Edwards who leads them around the left-hander. And look at Troy Corser from the second row up there around about 5th place.
Long way around the outside there, Warren, and Troy's given it his best shot. He had a bit of a mess up in SuperBiKe to recover from the grid.
So Edwards it is who leads them around turn 3 and 4 for the first time, and there's Hager. No surprise to see the Samurai of Slide on the case very early and right behind Edwards. I thought for a moment he's going to try and look up the inside of him, and Frankie Keeley somehow got the Suzuki fired up after getting an awful start, and he's there tucked in behind Bayliss in 4th spot. Up the hill they come. It's so steep, and up towards the corkscrew they will come for the very first time.
Got a bit more run off at the corkscrew now too, Warren. They had a modification there, moved an oak tree, so Hager's exactly where he wants to be. He's had a bit of trouble in qualifying turning into the corkscrew.
Colin Edwards has never won a race here at Laguna Seca in any class, and that's incredible considering, of course, he did so much racing in the local American Championship before moving on to the World Superbikes. But look at this, Hager right on his hammer. That R7 is so nimble, looking up the inside, not on this occasion, as they come back down towards the start-finish straight for the first time. It's Edwards, Hager, Bayliss, then Frankie Keeley. Akira Yanagawa there tucked in 5th spot, doing a great job on the Kawasaki.
Troy Bayliss quite quick into the last turn there, but he didn't get out the exit that well. Made a little bit of ground back up on the Ducati down the chute as far as Hager's concerned, but Hager's got himself pretty busy at the moment.
That R7, he can make it turn on a 10-cent piece when he wants to, as they come out of the infield section once again and head up this series of left-handers towards the corkscrew, as you said. Put some more track out there. Troy Bayliss.
Just a little bit of a snappy bit of wheel spin on that right hand of out of the infield there, so Hager's definitely trying as hard as he can right from the get-go.
Bayliss was out there on the white paint also. Of course, he has been in dynamic form in recent times. Noriyuki Hager, though, right on the back of Colin Edwards' wheel as they come up the hill again. Tuck it into the left-hand side, then switch it back to the outside of the track. And here he's getting very hot into that top part of the corkscrew. Was that Troy Bayliss, or in fact...
Hager up to the front now, so Hager's made his move out of the corkscrew and down the hill. Just stuck it up the inside down there, and you can. There's a lot of room to play with.
Here is Hager. Look at it work again. Frankie Keeley, his thing was on the move with Troy Bayliss in the background, but what a move from Hager to go up the inside of Colin Edwards as they come over the start-finish line again. Did you see Bayliss, how wide he was coming out of the last corner?
Using every bit of track he can. That's the corner I mentioned last lap. He was fast into there. Edwards back into the lead down the front straight.
Using the Castrol Honda's power, getting up over the top of the hill, but Hager is right there with him again along that side, that Castrol Honda as they come out of turn 2. Around the right-handers through the infield section. Akira Yanagawa still thereabouts. Troy Corser up alongside him as well. So Corser on board the Aprilia. He's been very quick over the last couple of days in practice and qualifying. He is on the move, perhaps. Of course, he has been in terrific form himself. A double win at Misano a couple of rounds ago before taking race 1 at Valencia in the last round. And there is the fastest lap. No surprise that it's Noriyuki Hager, a 126.6. That is flying in the first couple of laps.
Well, you can see he's definitely on the case, Warren. He definitely doesn't want to let Colin Edwards get away too much at all. And he'd rather just, I think, keep his nose up Colin Edwards' exhaust pipe by the look of it. And how hard is he trying?
Very hard as they came out of the corkscrew yet again around Rainy Curve. Named, of course, after the 3-time 500cc world champion who lives just up the hill here from Laguna Seca, just outside Monterey on the Californian coast. And here's Hager backing it again at the last corner. So good on the brakes getting into that last corner. Bayliss very wide once again. That wall on the outside of the track where the grandstand starts is so close to it. And coming out of that last corner, it's amazing how close that concrete is. It's not as close as
it used to be.
No, as you very well know better than anybody, Mr. McGee. Here's Edwards, though, still doing a good job out in front, of course. He's gone through a real mixed period in this middle part of the season, but looks to be back on the case at the moment. Of course, they put a new motor into that into the Castrol Honda, and it is in fact the old motor which they started the season on. They were trying a new motor in the middle part of the season. It hasn't worked for Edwards. Here he is doing what he was doing at the beginning of the season. Looking at the back now of the bike of Ben Bostrom, back towards the Kawasaki of Akira Yanagawa as they come up the hill. Bostrom, of course, a winner here last year in race 2. After his teammate in the Vance and Hines Ducati team last year, Anthony Gobert, took race 1. It was, in fact, the first time that Bostrom had won a Superbike race of any note. And here he is again inside the top 5. Hager once again coming around Rainy Curve, slips it up the inside of Colin Edwards, and Reed takes the lead.
Same place as last time, Warren, and that's how nimble the R7 is. Just uses metres less track there. Now he's got to get in front of Colin Edwards enough here so that he can stay in front by the time they get to the end of the front straight. And it looks like he may well be nearly far enough.
Bayliss has been just constant there in third place, not making any ground on these two men out in front. Despite them swapping the lead, he hasn't been able to close up too much, and he's around about 3/4 of a second off the pace now of Noriyuki Haga, who has been able to hold off Colin Edwards. And Troy Corser back there now in 5th place in a real battle for that 4th position. Goddard in 10th position, so not doing such a bad job. The man from Wollongong on board that second Kawasaki, but Haga it is. Look at him lean it around the infield as they head back up towards the uphill climb once again.
Yeah, now what Haga's trying to do now is definitely make a break on Colin Edwards and the rest of the field for that matter, because he's a lot more comfortable out front rather than the big Honda, you know, picking him off back down the straight again.
Troy Corser has been able to go past Frankie Keeley, so he has 4th place under his wing at the moment. Keeley shuffled back to 5th place, remembering he's still riding with that broken collarbone, suffered in that very big crash in race 2 at Misano when he was an innocent victim, really, of a chain of events that happened after Noriyuki Haga himself crashed out while trying to catch Troy Corser. It is Edwards, though, who is now in 2nd place, trailing Haga, who has opened up a little bit of a gap here, and Bayliss isn't that far off the back wheel of Colin Edwards.
No, Bayliss is definitely putting in a solid ride there, and this is actually his debut race at Laguna Seca for Troy Bayliss, so great start.
Certainly is. They did 1 day of winter testing there before the start of the AMA season. Since then, he's been drafted into the Works camp and the Infrastrada Ducati team in the World Championship, and I'm sure has a place to stay for at least next year and maybe a couple of years to come. Such form he has been in since taking the ride after Carl Fogarty's demise at Phillip Island. But it is Haga leading Colin Edwards. Troy Bayliss is there in 3rd place and Troy Corser in 4th. So the Troy's on the case once again. Frankie Keeley slightly losing touch with that front 4. And there's just 1.3 seconds separating Haga out in front from Troy Corser in 4th place.
Troy Corser's put in a solid ride from the start, back on 7th after super pole on the grid. Got caught up a little bit in the first couple of laps, was back a ways, but he's just inched away at Colin Edwards and Haga's lead, and he's actually a lot closer now than he was in the early laps.
Looking at the back of Larry Peagram's bike there at Vito Guareschi, who was a long way back in 17th position. Of course, on that Belgardi Yamaha, he hasn't been in such bad form in recent times. He obviously has had an awful start here at Laguna Seca. Corser up the inside of Bayliss. Troy goes past Troy, and Corser it is now in 3rd place. Bayliss in 4th, but for how long? Back up the inside at the last corner. Can he keep the power on and hold it off? Yes, he can. Corser gets the thing wheel standing as they come back across the start-finish line. They swap places in the matter of a corner.
Well, the good old Aussie boys, both by the name of Troy, you know, one goes into 3rd in 2nd last corner, and then the next one straight back up the inside. So there's not too much compatriotism there. They just want the position, and that's it.
1.2 seconds now separates Haga and Corsa, so it's getting tighter out in front. Haga might have tried to make a break when he did get to the lead, but he hasn't been able to pull away from Colin Edwards. You get the feeling this one is set for 28 laps of just scintillating action all the way to the checkered flag. A little bit of a gap now between Edwards, Bayliss and Corsa. Not a surprise seeing that Bayliss and Corsa have been mixing it up over the last half a lap or so. Bostrom getting closer to these two all the time, so he's also gone past Frankie Keeley, who obviously is still feeling the effects of that broken collarbone. And Ben Bostrom would love to get on the case here and give the locals something to cheer about.
Well, I think Bostrom is probably the biggest danger man, Warren. He was fastest for the most of practice and qualifying, and the only time he wasn't was for the one Super Pole lap. So when you look at it, Bostrom really has got the fast laps on the board already.
A rider reborn in recent times, of course. Here we are looking at the back of his bike at Frankie Keeley, who now has been shuffled back to 6th place after doing a pretty good job getting off the front row of the grid, even though he missed the kick slightly. And here they are coming back up the start-finish straight. The fastest point of the circuit coming over the hill here, and it is a daunting sweeping left-hander.
It's pretty amazing. The bike wants to come up onto the back wheel as well as go sideways. So all that at about sort of 255, 260k.
And I can tell you, having had a good look at the circuit last year, it is amazing how close that concrete wall is on the outside. You just can't believe there is so little runoff room when they're getting across the top there in very, very quick fashion. Haga and Edwards, 0.4 of a second between the leader and the man in second place, of course. Haga, oh, here we go back through the field here. Oh, there's no drama when they do
false
that.
alarm, man. Troy Bayliss.
Troy Bayliss has crashed out in race 1 at Laguna Seca. Terrible start. That is such a shame for Troy Bayliss getting up through the left-hander. Well, they were panning back through the field with the cameras, and I thought there was drama back through the field. And as we come up towards the hill, here it is again. Out in front of Troy Corsa, just gets into the left-hander. Take a look at it, just lost the front end.
Yeah, it looks like he's just about almost got the thing leaned over too far, and obviously that was the drama I had there. There was two Troys just about on the same bike, if you like.
They were so close together for about the last couple of laps. Well, Troy Bayliss has done an outstanding job since coming into the factory team. Well, he'll be disappointed to throw it down the road like that, especially with his fellow countryman right behind him. So Troy Bayliss crashes out in race 1 at Laguna Seca and ends a string of good scoring rides for him, highlighted of course by that win in race 1 at Hockenheim some 3 rounds ago. But out in front now, it is still Noriki Haga. Oh, there was somebody on the wall. Was that Vito Guareschi?
Exactly, Warren. I think that was Guareschi. Good call there.
Looked like the red and blue Belgadi Yamaha leathers, so obviously something's gone wrong with Guareschi. And Bostrom up in front of Troy Corsa into 3rd place, so he is definitely on the move. A couple of seconds behind Noriki Haga, but not for too much longer, you get the feeling, wearing those very nice blue Evel Knievel sort of leathers today.
Yeah, and Troy Corsa lost a second in total over that lap when Troy Bayliss crashed as well. So I guess Troy got tangled up in it a little bit and had to make sure he stayed on the bike.
Bostrom able to slip it up the inside of Corsa as he got off the gas when Bayliss disappeared from in front of him, and here he is now. We're looking out the back as they come through the corkscrew. What a famous corner it is, an infamous corner I suppose if you like for Akira Yanagawa after he was torpedoed there by Doug Chandler a couple of years ago in what was a shocking crash. There have been some big incidents, of course, at Laguna Seca over the years. Once again, we don't have to remind you about that, Kevin. As you can see, it's a very warm afternoon, a nice spot to watch from up the top of the hill. You can see a lot of the circuit from various parts of the track. And, well, at the moment, they're watching Colin Edwards, one of their men, out in pursuit of Noriki Haga. And there is Ben Bostrom still holding down 3rd place. Troy Corsa at the moment is in 4th.
I think Haga, by the look of that, he's been using a lot of rear tyre so far, so we'll just see how his tyres hang in there. But generally the way he sets the bike up, you can ride it when it's fairly loose, as we've seen many times.
Well, if Haga was going to show any ill effects from all the drama that's been happening off the track as far as the court case with the FIM, they've rejected his latest appeal against the suspension of points and also a possible 30-day suspension, which is still hanging over his head. They're still fighting it. They're taking his case to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, so they're going to go right to the top and see if they can get those 45 points back. And if they could get the 45 points back, Noriki Haga at the moment would be the World Championship leader, and Colin Edwards on board that number 2 Honda would be shuffled back to second place. So there is a lot to try and fight for. At the moment, he's doing a great job of just getting those points back by himself on the circuit. He says from Friday to Sunday, all he thinks about is crossing the line first.
Yeah, and that obviously shows the way he rides, Warren, and this is just another example of Hager at his best, and I reckon he's just a joy to watch, to be honest.
He is unbelievable, and he still leads this race. He'll come across the line to finish 9 laps, so we're about 1/3 the way into this first race at Laguna Seca. Of course, race 2 coming up immediately after this, and Edwards is still there with him, and so that new, well, I'll say the new motor in the Honda, the old motor, if you like, that they've gone back to, working once again, and this looks like the Colin Edwards we've come to know and love.
Yeah, exactly, and sometimes you've got to go backwards to go forwards in the end, and I guess we've seen that in the NSR 500s a little bit over the years too, Warren.
Bostrom still around about 2 seconds behind the pace of Hager, and Corsa is right there still with Ben Bostrom. We'll see if Bostrom can try and drag both of them up towards Edwards and Hager as they come around the left-hander again. It is still Hager who is out in front. Edwards, the gap has opened up slightly there between Hager and Edwards, so we'll take a look at those splits as they come across the line the second time. We apologise for the quality of pictures coming out of California. You just never know what you might get from over there. The coverage at times can be a little bit interesting. We're having a little bit of trouble with the satellite there, so we apologise for that, but we'll keep bringing you the pictures as they come to us. And here is Troy Corsa getting closer all the time to Ben Bostrom, so that Aprilia really enjoying this Laguna Seca circuit. And Corsa himself, of course, a multiple-time winner at Laguna Seca, both in the AMA Championship when he won the title over there in 1994, and since then in the World Superbikes as well.
Yeah, he's got a very good track record at Laguna Seca, but right at the moment he's busy trying to tack onto the back of Ben Bostrom. He snuck a look over his shoulder last lap on the way up the back straight just to keep a check on Frankie Keeley, and see him run it in, made up quite a bit of ground on the first double left-hander on Ben Bostrom there.
In fact, Troy Corsa, race 1 last year, was the only time he's missed the podium since coming into the full World Superbike ranks as a Ducati rider previously to this year, and he's won twice and finished second 5 times, an outstanding record, and he's on track here to finish on the podium once again if he can find a way past Ben Bostrom. They're trying to pick up Colin Edwards and Hager out in front, but they are just running so consistent laps. There's hardly anything's changed down to the 10th of a second between these front 4 men. It's been very, very tight. Yeah,
there's nothing in it at all, and that's another thing about Laguna. Like, once you got it set, it's hard to sort of go quicker, and conversely slower. Well, it's easy to go slow, just turn off the throttle, but just to get that extra 10th around Laguna is a really tough job.
You lose the pictures there as they go underneath the bridge coming out of the corkscrew, but it is still Corsa right there. You see how he's got it working. It's so smooth. It's on rails sometimes at Aprilia. It just runs from white line to white line so smoothly, hardly a movement from the bike at all.
Yeah, that's how Troy likes to ride him. He's mentioned that in his setup, that he likes to have the bike so that it's very solid, you know, it's not skipping all over the place under braking, etc. So he sets it up so that he can ride it smooth, and that's a great thing because it does look after your tyres a lot better.
Here he is, just tucking into the back of Ben Bostrom. We look out the back of the 155 NCR Ducati. Bostrom has been in such good form since being shifted, if you like, from the full work squad out to the almost privateer Ducati team, semi-works team, if you like, and well, he really has found some form. There's even talk they may even switch back to the Dunlops, which he won the American Championship on a couple of years ago, of course, and rode on last year when he finished second behind Matt Mladen, who has been racing in that AMA Championship race, and did in fact finish second to the young 18-year-old Nicky Hayden, who has been in dynamic form in the American Superbike Championship. Matt Mladen finished second yesterday in their race there, and he still holds a very slender lead in the AMA Championship overall. But here is Hager once again coming through the corkscrew, and if anything, that gap over Edwards has opened up.
That gap's definitely grown, and you can see Hager just backing it in ever so gently into the corkscrew on that lap just over the crest, and he's definitely a man on a mission, and he's keeping it actually very tidy for Hager. He's not backing it in too much, so you've got to read into that he knows that he's got to look after his rear tyre for 28 laps around Laguna.
Super consistent lap times, as we saw on the bottom of the screen there, in the high 126s for the last 5 laps, and Edwards, for the time being, doesn't look as if he's been able to go with Hager. There has been a slight gap open up, although as soon as you say that, he has pulled back perhaps a little bit of time between the last corner and getting into those sweeping left-handers, the Andretti curve, as they call it, as they come around these right-handers in the infield. There's Bostrom and Corser. So Corser is tacked right there on the back of Bostrom's bike. We'll see if they can try and make any ground on Noriyuki Haga out here in front, but he is riding once again a masterful race, looking for his 4th race win of the year, even though they have taken one of them away from him. I'm still counting it.
Well, I think it's a good thing for the championship if we do count it, Warren. It makes it that much more exciting, as especially in this case with Haga and Edwards battling for the lead.
Larry Pegram there looking out the back of his bike. He is well back in the field. And as we said, one of the few American wildcards to take a start in this round. We had the likes of Matt Mladen, Nicky Hayden, John Kosinski, in fact, out there mixing it up with these boys. It would be very interesting. It'd be like watching the Sugo around when the Japanese riders really mix it up with the world regulars. And well, probably a good thing for Colin Edwards as far as the championship points go, that he's out there and doesn't have too many wild cards in front of him to contend with. Otherwise, he might lose a lot of points if Haga was to win the race. Yeah,
a lot of the World Superbike regulars, Warren, are a lot more comfortable having a separate AMA race, so they don't have to contend with all that, and they can be serious about their own championship.
And there's trouble back down through the field. Hard to pick up nondescript leathers there of one of the back markers, and we couldn't see a number on the machine also. And there's trouble as well for Marco Borciani, who pulls out on board the Ducati. So perhaps a couple of riders getting tangled up as they come to, perhaps it looks like the main straight section there, getting back onto the last corner. So there's trouble for Borciani. He definitely is pulling out of the race. And one of the other riders we couldn't pick up the number of might have in fact even been Brian Parriott, one of the local men as well, on board the number 74 Honda. But anyway, it doesn't matter, because out in front it is Haga from Edwards. Bostrom still holding down 3rd position after taking back-to-back seconds at Valencia a couple of weeks ago. He'd like to break through and win once again here, as he did last year in race 2 in front of the locals. And if anything, Edwards falling back into the grasp of Bostrom and Corser.
That's definitely the way it looks. So Corser and Bostrom won't have to fight over the last podium position. They've got 2 podium positions between the 3 of them to fight over. So this is going to be a tough battle between Colin Edwards, because he certainly won't let Bostrom pass with too much ease, I wouldn't doubt.
And that Ducati of Bostrom squirming under him as he applies the brakes, getting into the last corner before they run back over the hill again through the sweeping left at turn 1, and then around this slow, long left-hander before they come to this new infield section. Of course, this has been added in recent times, in the last 6 or 7 years or so, this part of the circuit.
I reckon it was there in 1988, I think, when we raced there in the Grand Prix.
That long ago, was it?
Yeah.
There you go. They did change the circuit. It has been around.
Did test on the old circuit as it was without the infield. Yeah, that was pretty daunting. But yeah, no, they put it there to get the Grand Prix, actually. 1 for length and 2 for safety.
Doesn't seem that long ago, does it? And of course,
I did say safety too.
Didn't work in your case, did it? Here's Edwards, though, still holding down 2nd place from Bostrom. Corser is still there in 4th place, and no doubt that Edwards at the moment is going backwards in comparison to the men behind him, and Haga still running those consistent lap times in the high 126s out in front. Here we are looking again out the back of this RS 996 of Ben Bostrom, back towards Troy Corser as they sweep around Rainy Curve and then down towards the last couple of corners on the circuit through the right-hander, and then down towards the last left-hander before they go back onto the main straight.
I think it's only a matter of a lap or 2, Warren, before Ben Bostrom starts to try and force his way past Colin Edwards, and then it'll be on after that, because Colin Edwards definitely wants to get that 20-point break on 2nd.
Big time gap between Troy Corser and the man in 5th place at the moment. You can see nothing but clear road between Corser and that man in 5th place. Bostrom once again getting on the gas early, coming out of the slow left-hander as they head back around the infield. We've had 16 laps of 28, and it is Haga who holds a 2.5-second gap over Edwards. So they are losing time all the time to Noriyuki Haga. He has just absolutely done the disappearing act, and only something going wrong with the bike at the moment could stop him from winning this race and closing the gap even further on Colin Edwards.
Troy Corser might be the man to come out of this bunch for second place, Warren. He's looking very fast in some sections of Laguna, but tends to lose it in a couple of other spots, like through that left-hander before the back straight.
Up over the top again. It's Edwards still holding off Bostrom from Corser. No sign of Aaron Slight in the background, and Slighty, with this race start today, becomes the all-time leading man as far as actual race starts in the World Superbike category. 220 race starts now coming into tonight. He was equal with Carl Fogarty on 219. So a little bit of history for Aaron Slight after being awarded the Order of New Zealand just a couple of weeks ago.
Hard charger and been around for a long time, as you just mentioned, Warren, in World Superbikes, and always gives 100%.
Hager, though, out in front, giving more than 100% at the moment, doing a sensational job. The Yamaha, so potent this year. They have done such a good job getting it up to speed after it lacked a little bit of grunt in comparison to the Honda and the Ducati in recent times. And with the improvement of the Aprilia as well, it has been a real mix of victories. 4 for Colin Edwards so far this season, 4 for Corser, 3 for Noriyuki Haga, 1 each for Frankie Keeley and Troy Bayliss. Ben Bostrom, a couple of second placings, as we said last time around at Valencia. He would love to win in front of the home fans. But look at Haga as they go up the hill once again towards the corkscrew. He has just split out in front. He's already through the first section of the corkscrew, and now Bostrom is right there with Edwards. How good is he getting to the top first section of the corkscrew?
Different line there, Warren. It looked like he was almost trying to have a go, but it wasn't an opportunity at all. It sometimes can look that way, the way we look at it.
It might have been a little bit too much because he lost a little bit of ground to Edwards getting out of the corkscrew, coming around Rainy Curve as well, and Corser was able to close up right onto the back of him. But here we are once again getting up to the main straight. Plus 4 seconds for Troy Corser between himself and the man in 5th place, and they've got 10 laps left to run as they come across the start-finish line.
I think Ben Bostrom's move into the corkscrew, then you can see he's backing it in quite a bit into the first turn there, and I think he's starting to struggle. I'd be sure that he arrived at the corkscrew a little bit hotter than he intended.
No doubt about that. They run it tight across the curb there, getting through turn 3, and as you can see, Haga out in front has opened up a very big gap. So all the interest at the moment is in this battle for second place between Edwards, Bostrom and Corser. Frankie Keeley was up there very early on, but he has just fallen right off the pace and will be racing for minor points back in the field. Looking out the back once again of Ben Bostrom's bike at Troy Corser, who has been just so close to him for lap after lap after lap. And the gap between these two has remained so constant. It must be so frustrating for Corser as they come into the corkscrew once again. A much more conservative line this time for Ben Bostrom.
Yeah, I think that was as a result of getting in there way too hot last time, Warren, which could have all turned to tears very quickly, because when you come up to the corkscrew from that back straight, you do get there very quickly, and with the ground dropping away as it does, it's very easy to make a mistake.
So Bostrom still there in 3rd place, as he has been for so many laps. Haga, in the meantime, is already across the start-finish line, sweeps through turn 1, and then down into this left-hander. It's amazing that, look at him back it in there as he gets into the left-hander. It's amazing how he's been able to put all the drama off the track out of his mind and just continue to do the job out there on the track come race day. He is so focused and so strong this year.
Well, he's probably a little bit more focused and quite a bit more intense. Maybe he wants to stick a bit back up the FIM, I suppose, Warren, in some sense, which was all to no avail, but looks great on the racetrack.
Certainly does. If he's using the motivation, he's using it to great effect, and I think he'd like to make a move perhaps next year up to the 500cc Grand Prix ranks with Yamaha, who he has been with for a very, very long time now. He'd like to do it moving up as the World Superbike champion, and even if he does not get back the 45 points after tonight, there will still be 4 more rounds left, so there's plenty of time for him, especially if he keeps picking up points as he is at the moment on track against Colin Edwards. Looking at the back of Larry Peagram's bike at absolutely nothing.
Just fresh air.
No one behind him on the track, nothing in the sky, and can't imagine why we're looking at Larry Peagram when this is where the interest lies, of course, with Ben Bostrom in 3rd place, racing the Texan. So it's the Texan holding down second place, the Californian in third place, and the man from Wollongong in fourth place.
Well, Ben Bostrom finished second in the first race last year, Warren, so in effect, if you like, sitting in third at the moment, he's going to have a blotch on the record book by, you know, finishing a little bit worse than he did last year.
No red marks on this man's book at the moment. At Laguna Seca, at least, he is just out in front, freewheeling. Fresh air between himself and Colin Edwards in second place, who still holds off Ben Bostrom and Troy Corser there in fourth place. It's been so static. It's quite incredible, this race.
Yeah, it's not quite normal. I was wondering if Troy Corser was sitting there, but I don't think so. I think he would have been by Bostrom straight away if he could. So I think everybody's got everything on the line at the moment.
Troy Corser, of course, back in 1998, had a real battle with Noriki Haga in race 2 here at Laguna Seca, and they actually came to touch fairings as they came up the hill through that section of the circuit right there. And well, I'm sure Corser at some stage tonight would like to repay Noriki for that little moment.
Yeah, I think I remember Troy saying it broke his clutch lever off, well, the end off the clutch lever, not completely, obviously. But that's how, you know, intense it was. Troy wasn't very happy either.
All the boys get on pretty well in the Superbike paddock, but there is a little bit of animosity there, perhaps lingering over from that incident. It is between Troy Corser and Noriki Haga, but at the moment, the Yamaha man comes around the last corner. There's Edwards, Bostrom and Corser. And across the start-finish line, Haga goes once again, sweeps across the top of the hill as the fans on the top of the circuit there look down on the action. Didn't get a split time as they came across the line there. Would have been nice to see what the difference was between Colin Edwards and Noriki Haga, because if anything, that gap looks to have shrunk perhaps a little bit, Kevin.
I'll sit on the fence on that one. How's that?
Thanks for being absolutely non-committal and backing me up in the trenches. Perhaps I'm absolutely just trying to see if someone could do something with this lead out in front, because Haga at the moment is making an absolute yawn. He's just doing such a good job riding away on the R7. I think, well, perhaps they are getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, you could be right, Woz. I reckon that's a good call there for sure. Why I was a bit spent in the mind department just then, if you like, was because I was thinking it's the second year with the R7 in development, and to be this strong, you know, a little bit after the midpoint of the season, I think Yamaha's done an excellent job, especially in the second year of development. And I think Haga having his own team, if you like, has made all the difference there. Especially
when you consider that everybody else has gone to V-twin power, if you like. Edwards behind him in second place is on the V-twin Honda. Bostrom is on the V-twin Ducati, and likewise Corser, we're looking at the moment, is on the number 3 V-twin Aprilia. Go Ben go, they say, along the pit lane wall.
And they're telling him to get out of there because I think they're just waiting for Troy to bite him.
Now as they come over the top of the hill again and into this left-hander, I've got no doubt that Edwards has been able to close that gap a little bit on Noriki Haga. There might not be enough time, but if Haga's tyres do go off in the last couple of laps, of course, he's pushed pretty hard getting that lead, and there is the gap. Well, it's still 3.1 seconds. We've got 6 laps left to run. Bostrom and Corser, it has been the same order for lap after lap after lap around this circuit at Laguna Seca. Juan Borja back there in 9th place with Busai there in 10th as well. But here comes Haga coming up onto the back of more traffic, and it is in fact Peter Goddard that he's about to lap and screams past. Wow. So that's a surprise to see a factory Kawasaki man being lapped late in the race.
Well, you wouldn't expect that, not at all. And Peter Goddard, you know, normally pretty good punter and one of the front runners, but may well have had some problems that we didn't see.
And has been in pretty good form as well since coming into the Works team, replacing Gregorio Lavilla, who is still out recovering from a broken pelvis he suffered in a crash at Monza earlier in the season. Goddard a couple of 6 places back-to-back at Valencia in the last round after going 8th 2 races in a row at Misano. So, wow, a long way back in the field and being lapped by the leading men. So obviously something's gone amiss with that Kawasaki. They have in fact had some troubles with tyres in recent times, and the Dunlops have had a couple of out-of-round tyres, which must be interesting to go riding on and racing on. And there he is being lapped by his fellow Australian from Wollongong, Troy Corser. That must be really grating on him.
Well, that's not an easy thing to cope with, if you like, when you're a racer and you're out there, you know, going your hardest, doing your best, and the boys are already a lap in front of you. That's a bit downgrading, you'd have to say.
Try and find out what's happened with that Kawasaki in between races, but here we are once again with Bostrom, and Corsa is right back on the case here, putting that front wheel of the Aprilia right in the exhaust pipe there of Bostrom as they come up the hill once again. The gap the last couple of laps was 3.1 seconds between Haga and Edwards, and if I thought it was closing, perhaps looking at that as they go across the top of the circuit there, the highest point of the track just above the corkscrew, well, I think Haga might have it well in hand.
It certainly looks that way. I think Bostrom's going to be running out of or running lower on rear tyre more than either Troy Corser or Colin Edwards, so I don't think he'll be able to make a move on Colin Edwards, but I do think Troy Corser's got a definite chance to get himself on the podium by getting past Bostrom.
Haga backs it in again, and here we are back down through the field. Edwards has Bostrom and Corser right there with him, so it's just about as close as it's been at any stage between these three men, although Edwards, with that V-twin Castrol Honda power, able to jump off that last corner and open up the slightest of gaps again as they come up the straight. But look at Corser trying around the outside. Here we are looking at the back of Bostrom's Ducati again. You can see it squirming as he gets the power on, coming out of the slow left-hander, and Corser was right there with him getting into that turn two, trying to look around the outside at him.
Yeah, that's been Troy's line for the most of the race as well, Warren, and also the advantage Troy Corser's got here, he's been looking at Ben Bostrom's lines for most of the race so far, so he will have a very good idea at where he will be able to stick it up the inside or right around the outside.
Now here's Peter Goddard. He looks over his shoulder and he's got Frankie Keeley and his teammate Akira Yanagawa going past him and pulling off the racing line, giving them a very wide berth to go through. So Keeley holds down fifth, Yanagawa is in sixth place, and Goddard gets passed by his teammate. So something is desperately wrong with that Kawasaki of his.
Yeah, I think he must be just out there circulating to get a couple of points, you know, further down. Maybe there's not much point in that, but obviously he's still out there for a reason.
We'll desperately try and find out what's wrong with that Kawasaki of his, but wow, a long way off the pace, and he gets lapped by the top six men, and perhaps more to come. Edwards still holding off Bostrom and Corser as they come across the start-finish line yet again. Haga, though, just clearing out in front. And here we are looking at the back of Bostrom's bike once more. Corser takes it to the outside again, as he did on the last lap, but there's no way around that way as they get around that slow left-hander. They tip it back in through the right-handers in the infield. We've got less than 3 laps to go in race 1 at Laguna Seca.
Corser's desperate to try to find a way around Bostrom. He can get to the back of him, but he just can't get by. Maybe until now? No. He just needs another couple of inches, basically, and he'll be there. But I guess he's reading his pit board, and you can see that he's still got 2.5 laps to get him, but he's running out of time very fast, and Bostrom will obviously start covering his lines a little bit more and doing a bit of blocking, certainly for the last lap, if not the last 2.
There was the slightest gap there for Bostrom, and I tell you what, these three are getting very close to Noriyuki Haga. Was that Haga pulling off the racing line there, or a back marker?
No,
Tell me it wasn't Noriyuki Haga.
No, Haga's still in fine form.
There's Edwards, Bostrom holding down 3rd place. Corser is there in 4th place. Here's Corser keeping the power on, running it out of that second last corner, but down to the last corner, with 2 laps to run as they come across the start-finish line. Bostrom is able to hold him off. They've got 2 laps left to go, and the gap says +0.
There's a good reason for that too, because his pit know that Troy Corser is definitely a dangerous man, and could well slip. Lost a little bit there. Didn't get the thing turned later in the turn like he has in earlier laps.
No doubt about Haga. For a moment there, I thought he was slipping back into the clutches of this trio trying to track him down, but he still leads by 3.5 seconds. Keeley is in 5th place with Yanagawa in 6th, but vital points up for grabs here in the championship, of course. Troy Corser in 2nd place, some 26 points behind Colin Edwards. He'd love to get in front of the Texan and pick up at least a few points if he could, but at the moment it's Edwards who will pick up 20 points if he finishes in 2nd place. Bostrom will get 16, and Corser will pick up 13 for his 4th placing, so that gap of 26 would open up a little bit, and it would become 33 points, and that would be a nice buffer for Edwards with 4.5 rounds left to run, but Hager still out in front. He's on track to pick up 25 points and has less than a lap and a half to go.
Yeah, Edwards definitely needs to protect the position he's in at the moment, but I'll tell you what, with Bostrom breathing down his neck and Troy Corser breathing down Bostrom's neck, it could get a little bit tight, as you can see there. Troy Corser's definitely not shy under brakes.
As Norrie Chan goes across the start-finish line for the second last time. The next time he comes across, he'll get the checkered flag. His lead was a very healthy, more than healthy 3.3 seconds. Here's Corser once again running it around the outside, trying to find a way past Ben Bostrom. He has looked and looked there. He can't do it there. He tries to cut it back to the inside as they come through the right-handers in the infield. And here's Edwards out on the white line himself, pushing that Honda very hard.
Corser's got to have a go into this left-hander up the hill. I think that's what he's been trying to set up for.
Here he is.
Close last lap, but again, not close enough.
He did cut it back to the inside there, having a look, but Bostrom good on the brakes, getting into that left-hander there. There's Hager going through the bottom of screen. Edwards holding down second place on board the number 2 Honda. Bostrom still third and Corser fourth. It has been that way for the best part of the 28 laps here at Laguna Seca, and they'll come to the corkscrew for the very last time. Look at Bostrom going to the inside, protecting that line, getting into the first bit of the corkscrew.
Definitely covering a little bit there, Warren. He's got +0 on that board. Don't forget, he knows who's right on his ducktail.
He runs it out very wide, getting through Rainy Curve, and here's Corser on the last lap up the inside with one more corner to
now,
go.
Bostrom's always good under brakes.
And he gets back up the inside to retake third place. Corser will cut it back to the inside. Hager gets the win in race 1 at Laguna Seca. A great battle for third place, and Corser got Bostrom. Corser got him to take third place. Edwards came home in second place, and what a last desperate move from Troy Corser, but they are celebrating already on pit lane wall because Noriyuki Haga has picked up yet another win. What a ride from the Samurai of Slide.
Well, how good is he? And the Yamaha's come along so well in the development, and well, there's a bit of conjecture at the moment about how many points he's got in the World Championship, but he just keeps taking 25s away of late.
And here's this move in the last corner. Bostrom slipping it back underneath Troy Corser. He was late and deep, and Corser cut it back to the inside.
Yeah, right there you could see in the middle where Troy knew that he had to stop and turn the Aprilia to fire it straight back up the inside, because Bostrom got in there that hot. He was definitely going to be wide on the exit and lose a little bit of time, and it paid off. He's got that podium.
Keeley third, and Hager will be on the front row as well. Troy Bayliss, super pole yesterday, he was the man. Ben Bostrom was the fastest man during qualifying. He finished up on the second row of the grid. Yanagawa was there also. Troy Corser had perhaps his worst super pole lap for quite some time, and also back there on the second row will be Aaron Slide. There was row number 3, Busai, Goddard and Fujiwara. Back on row 4, Meklau, Pegram, Borja and Haru Aoki. On board that R&D Ducati will start from 16th position, the former 2-time 125cc world champion. And then back down through the field, the back marker Sancini, Petticini, Borgiani as well, who didn't finish in race 1. We saw him pull out. A couple of casualties from race 1. The track temperature up around about 50 degrees Celsius, so it is very, very warm, and tyre choice will be critical. They've all made it now, and they're out there on the warm-up lap. It will be Troy Bayliss starting from pole position. Edwards, Keeley and Hager alongside him. Hager got a great start in race 1. Keeley got an awful start off the line, but got it going pretty quickly, but faded back through the field, still battling that broken collarbone quite obviously, and he had to content himself with a battle for 5th place with Akira Yanagawa, who we saw on screen then on board the number 4 Kawasaki. Looking ahead to other events coming up in the world of motorbike racing, of course, the Suzuka 8-hour race at Suzuka coming up in a couple of weekends' time. And well, Colin Edwards at the moment doesn't have his mind on that, but he will do in a couple of weeks' time, because his teammate there, what a star pairing it will be, Valentino Rossi, who broke through for his first 500cc victory last night at the British Grand Prix at Donington. He will be the teammate of Colin Edwards, and they will be pretty hard to catch if they can get on the pace there in the first hour or so of the famous Suzuka 8-hour. What a star pairing they are.
Yeah, well, getting on the pace in the first hour is okay, Warren, but it's that 8th hour and the nighttime finish in the dark that can be the problem for some. But it is such a tough race. It's like anything can happen, and usually does.
Valentino won't have ridden in the dark before. Up until recent times, didn't like riding in the rain, but he certainly solved that problem this year, and he did it to great effect last night at Donington Park in the British Grand Prix. Broke through for the first win of his career. We'll see if Noriyuki Haga here can notch up a win number 11 in his World Superbike career. He will start from 4th position on the front row of the grid on the other side of the circuit, closest to the fans on the outside of the track. Troy Bayliss will be starting from pole position, and there we are looking out the rear of the 155 Ducati of Ben Bostrom, back at the likes of the men behind him, including Peter Goddard. We're about to go racing for the second time this morning at Laguna Seca. Bayliss from pole position. They get the green light. A good start from all 4 men on the front row of the grid. Bayliss got a blinder this time. Edwards on the inside, but Bayliss will hold him off as they turn through the kink at turn 1 and come down to the slow left-hander. It is Bayliss from Edwards, and then Corser it is looking around the outside once again there in 4th position. Hager, I think you'll find, is slotted into 3rd place, looking at the inside of Edwards, and will go through into 2nd place. He's already on the move.
Not wasting any time.
Goes up into 2nd place past Colin Edwards, but it is Troy Bayliss out in front with nothing but clear track in front of him. Hager in 2nd, Edwards in 3rd, Troy Corser in 4th place. What a start from Troy Bayliss. He didn't waste the pole position this time.
Certainly didn't. Warren got away nicely right beside Colin Edwards, so they were sort of queuing right beside each other right until the first turn.
And here's Hager again, coming up towards the hill, towards the corkscrew, already on the rear tyre of Troy Bayliss. He was looking underneath him, coming through the left-hander, and I dare say we might see a passing manoeuvre as they come down the hill here. It's a rainy curve. That's where he did it in race 1 on Edwards, and he does it to Bayliss on lap 1 in race 2. He might say goodbye now, good night, sayonara, see you later, ta-ta, auf Wiedersehen, and Hager might be off for the 25 points again.
I think he is. Colin Edwards looks like he's trying to go with him, but got to get past Troy Bayliss first, so this is what Hager needs. He needs as many riders as he can get between himself and Colin Edwards.
Up the hill they go, across the finish line, and it is Troy Bayliss holding down 2nd place, Edwards behind him. Here's Bostrom up in 4th place, making a move on Troy Corser, just to repay a little favour from race number 1. He's there on those all brilliant white letters with stars and Evel Knievel stripes as well. Underneath the helmet, he's got the red, white and blue stars and stripes happening on the hairdo as well. But look at Hager out in front, open up a gap on Bayliss already.
Yeah, he's just on a mission to split and make everybody look silly, I think, Warren, and at this point he's doing an excellent job of that.
It is just ridiculous. He is riding in a different league at the moment as they wind their way up the hill again. They go through the next left-hander and up the hill once more. It climbs so steeply. You don't get a real good look at it here on TV, but I can tell you that hill there is incredibly steep. They go up the hill towards the corkscrew again. Here's Edwards on the back of Troy Bayliss. Bostrom cutting to the inside. That's no line to take into the corkscrew. Somehow, some way, he has pulled it off. What a manoeuvre from Bostrom.
That was ugly. That definitely wasn't a smooth move, but I guess he got away with it.
He absolutely did, because there he is now in 3rd place, from 5th place to 3rd place. What a line to take into the corkscrew. I don't know how he kept the thing on the track and didn't bring everybody down with him, including Edwards and Corser. Incredible stuff from the Californian in front of the home fans.
And Troy Bayliss using up every bit of track there at the end of the curve and some gravel. There's Colin Edwards with the back wheel off the ground. Bostrom out on the dusty dirt. You can see it going sideways both ways, and he's just tucked it around the edge of the curve.
And Edwards had to get on the brakes even heavier to avoid him there, and he was able to cut it back to the inside and stick it up the inside of Troy Corser as well on the exit of the corkscrew. That was an incredible manoeuvre. We might see him pull it off again to try and find a way past Troy Bayliss. No surprise to see that it's Hager setting the fastest lap on 1:26.6. just as he did almost the 1,000th of a second in the first couple of laps in race 1. Here he is again, getting away from them, but Bostrom is desperate to go with him, and he needs to get past Troy Bayliss to do so. We're coming up back up towards the corkscrew again. What does he have in store here for Bayliss? Back to the inside once more, into second place. He has got the corkscrew down to a fine art.
He's definitely got that dialed. That was a lot cleaner, and I'm sure his heart rate was probably about 50 beats a minute less getting through there that time, because he did stay well out of the very dusty part of the circuit, and it looked a lot tidier on the way in as well.
He's got the Elvis letters on, the Evel Knievel letters, if you like, and he's riding like Evel Knievel, throwing caution to the wind and doing a spectacular job. Now he's got just Hager out in front of him. They'll be going absolutely beside themselves in the grandstand there at Laguna Seca as they come across the top of the hill. Here he is again at the corkscrew. What about the way he's attacking this corner?
Yeah, he's definitely got a good line into there, and he can actually still get the thing stopped and turned in time to get a good entry for the corkscrew. You can see there, it hasn't taken away from his exit at all. It's still a little bit tight, but pulled it off, not a problem.
Well, Troy Bayliss, Colin Edwards and Troy Corser there now in this battle for third place must be sitting behind him and thinking, well, what is going on? They'll all be rethinking the way they attack the corkscrew in future races, I can tell you, Laguna Seca, because Ben Bostrom, he's not his brother Eric, Ben Bostrom has just rewritten the rule book.
Yeah, I certainly didn't think he would have gotten past Troy Bayliss that easily. But I guess, I'll tell you what, he's got that corkscrew definitely worked out.
A much more conservative line that time with nobody to try and stick it up the inside of, but he is out in pursuit of Hager and not making such a bad job of it at the moment. He's left Bayliss, Edwards and Corser in his dust behind him. And look at him wind the Ducati up as he sweeps around the right-hander, coming back towards the back of the pits.
Hager's on a mission now too, because he's got on the pit board that Bostrom's picking him up, so you can see there that Hager's definitely started to wring a little bit more out of the R7. Now, when and if Bostrom does get up onto the back of Hager and they start battling, that is going to be some good action.
The way he's going, it might be by the end of this particular lap here. Bostrom fastest to 126.3. That is incredible with these high track temperatures in race mode. He is really on a mission here in this second race. He's picking up Hager corner by corner. And back in the distance there, it is a real go between Bayliss, Edwards and Corser for that third position on the podium. If they could finish up there, well, I'll tell you what, they might not do too badly, because Edwards at the moment with that 30-point lead, if he could finish up in third place and have Corser behind him, he would increase that lead once again at the top of the rankings. But it is Hager who is his main concern out there on the track at the moment, because he's the man who is picking up points after points after points, race after race on Edwards. He's going to be a real factor in this championship. 45 points missing or not from a drug suspension, it doesn't matter for Hager, because it's given him further motivation. He's riding like a man inspired, but so is Ben Bostrom behind him, getting closer to the leader all the time.
Well, Ben Bostrom's definitely inspired. Those leathers seem to be doing a good job, Warren.
Bit of Kira Yanagawa running up on the backside there. I can't imagine who he was getting up the inside of. Larry Pegram had one of the onboard cameras looking at the back of his particular bike. Yanagawa might have blown the start and be behind Pegram, but here they are coming around the last corner again, and Bostrom is right there with him on terms. Look at him get the power of that Ducati up the inside, getting into the left-hander. He almost ran into the back of Hager, and here he is. He takes the lead.
Watch this.
The Californian leads in front of the local fans. You could hear them screaming as he came across the top of the hill. Bostrom, riding like a man inspired, takes the lead from Noriyuki Hager in the early stages of race 2 at Laguna.
Now, the way Bostrom's caught Hager, he should be able to ride away from Hager, but I can't see Hager letting him go.
Looking up the inside towards the left-hander, Hager backing it in, but Bostrom wipes his nose clean and holds the lead for the time being. Edwards back there in third place now has gone past Troy Bayliss, and he's coming after these two.
And Colin Edwards is definitely coming back into the picture there.
I thought I just said that.
Okay.
You've lost the plot, Magoo. I know you're excited. I know you like Laguna Seca. Not. But please, would you stay on the track?
The studio was echoing a tad from your excitement.
Here is Hager again and Bostrom. What a move it was by Bostrom to take the lead, but Hager, just as soon as that, came back to attack him around the infield, but Bostrom, for the time being, was able to hold him off. Look at Norwich, and he thought there was a gap there, but Bostrom ran it back to the white line and closed the door on him. Around the last corner again they come. Up the start finish straight there, punch in the air still. They want Bostrom to win in front of the home fans. He wants to win in front of the home fans. That Ducati is so good getting up the hill across the start finish line.
He's definitely got it firing well. It looks a little bit messy into the turns, but that's pretty much the way Bostrom rode the thing last year as well. It was really taily in the back end on the way into turns, and well, I guess Hager's really no different when it's all said and done.
And Edwards is picking them up slowly there in third place. You can see the gap, well, it's remained constant, but he did pick up half a second on Bostrom in just that last lap. Probably while Bostrom and Hager were dicing out in front, Edwards was able to close the gap, but look at him get closer all the time still here. He's in third place, and he's left for the moment Bayliss and Corsa in his wake behind him, so he is desperate to make it onto the podium once again here, and he at the moment pick up points on Troy Corsa, but Hager is just in front of him there on the track. If he can finish in front of Hager as well, it would be a pretty good afternoon for Colin Edwards, even if he finished second behind Ben Bostrom. But he's out in front, the man in those white leathers, doing a marvellous job. I wouldn't know he's been demoted in recent times from the full works team to this semi-works NCR Ducati squad, but since moving to the semi-works team, he has been a rider reborn, and he's really throwing down the challenge here to both Hager and Edwards at the moment.
Yeah, the move from Bostrom was to take a little bit of pressure off him as well. It was just too much on his shoulders, I think, and they just went a bit easy on him, and it was obviously a good move because look at what it's brought out of him.
Sure didn't help that Carl Fogarty was a casualty early in the season, and suddenly the pressure was on the shoulders of Ben Bostrom to keep the Infrastrada Ducati flag flying, but he has really revelled in this new situation, and here he is out in front, almost half a second in front of Noriki Hager. Edwards a further half a second behind Hager. Corsa is in fourth place, Bayliss fifth, Keeley sixth, Slight seventh, and Yanagawa back there in eighth. Fujiwara, Borhart, Goddard in 11th position, and Busai 12th. That's how they run at the moment. There's Frankie Keeley, about to be passed on the inside by Troy Bayliss, or in fact Frankie Keeley might be going past Troy Bayliss. That's what's happening. So Troy Bayliss' Ducati fading back through the field.
He's definitely got a problem with that, for Frankie to catch him and pass him that quickly and that easily, and it looked like he was driving up from the left-handers. So Troy Bayliss' Ducati definitely gone off song.
Especially when you consider that Frankie Keeley himself riding with the inconvenience of that still healing broken left collarbone with 2 plates and 7 screws in it, so he's doing a good job. And Troy Bayliss, after taking the whole shot from pole position, fading a long way back through the field, and now the podium looks like a distant hope. There is Aaron Slight, though, doing a good job, cutting back just underneath Akira Yanagawa as they get back onto the main straight. So we're looking out the rear of the 111 Castrol Honda, ridden by Aaron Slight as they come across the start-finish line. There's a real good dice, though, out in front. We cut back to the action now, and there is Bostrom leading Hager. Edwards perhaps not getting as close as he was early on, and Corsa, though, is back on the pace in fourth place. So there's not a lot between them out in front, those front 4 men.
No, they're definitely, it's a big point situation from the championship point of view, and Laguna, it's a funny, quirky little place. You know, a lot of the riders don't like it, but when they get their head down racing around the place, it is a lot of fun, and I think you can actually get yourself a bit carried away with it, and you know, maybe that's a posse Troy Corsa's in at the moment.
Katsuaki Fujiwara on board the number 9 Suzuki there, just behind both Yanagawa and Slide. Here's Bostrom cutting back to the inside of the track before he floats out to the outside. The gap between Corsa and Bostrom coming down all the time. There's Hager, still tantalisingly close to Ben Bostrom. He's just a couple of bike lengths behind him. Can't pick him up at the moment. Look at Bostrom just working around Wayne Rainey curve. Say that after a couple of sherbets early in the morning. Here's Hager. He's right there with him again as they get into the last corner, but up the hill here, this Ducati of Bostrom just powers away. Yeah,
he's definitely got the legs up that front chute. Hager probably can't stop and turn the thing quite as much as he needs to around that last turn, and it's a turn like that anyway, so he loses the effect of stopping it, turning it, not stopping him backing it in though.
And there's Juan Borja crashing out in race 2, so it's been an unhappy day for the Infrastrada Ducati camp. Bayliss crashing out in race 1 and fading back through the field here in this second race, and Borja has had an unhappy season since moving from the NCR Ducati camp and swapping places with Ben Bostrom. He certainly hasn't been able to get on the pace and has had a couple of moments. He crashed out at Valencia, we saw that. He crashes out here at Laguna Seca as well this afternoon. But Bostrom, the last 5 laps, you can see his lap times, 1:26.5. He's quickest in those last 5 laps, but he's been very consistent. Look at that, hardly a tenth of a second difference in those last 3 laps. He's super smooth.
Yeah, that one hiccup there, that second lap on that screen then was 7/10 slower than the fast one beforehand. So he's a little bit upset there at one stage, but definitely settled into a good rhythm since then.
There is Juan Borja, a disconsolate figure as he walks back to the Ducati camp. The PR man, Michele there. He's Morissetti with him. Here's some action back down through there where it was. That's Borja crashing out, coming into the last corner, perhaps trying a little bit too hard and just tosses it down the road.
Troy Corser up the inside of Colin Edwards.
Good call up into 3rd place. So Corser goes past Edwards. Looked as though Edwards was holding him up for the last couple of laps, and here they are coming around the last corner themselves. And now we'll see if Corser can wind that Aprilia up and launch an assault on both Haga and Bostrom out in front of him. But it's still Bostrom who holds off Haga for the moment, getting into the left-hander. But Corser with some clean track in front of him, we know how smooth he can be. We'll see if he can put some fast ones together.
Exactly, Warren. That's when Troy's at his best, when he's got fresh air and clear track in front of him. He can put the Aprilia exactly where he wants it to pull the quickest lap time.
The gap between Bostrom and Corser, 1.5 seconds after 11 of 28 laps. So we'll keep an eye on that gap. We might see it even decrease on the track. Oh, I thought Haga was having a look there, getting into the left-hander as they go up the hill, but he wasn't quite close enough. Bostrom has been very good on the brakes this afternoon, apart from being out-braked by Troy Corser in the last couple of corners in race 1. It is, though, Bostrom out in front with a nice gap. Haga's regained his composure after that moment in the last lap and has done a pretty good job getting back down to a rhythm.
Yeah, he settled.
Oh, as soon as you say that, he does that and almost throws himself out of the seat and into the 4th row of the grandstand with the Californians applying their suntan lotion.
Yeah, Troy Corser around the outside for a look and pulls it off. So now Corser's got a chance now where he can go to work really hard on Ben Bostrom out in front and track him down. It was 1.1 seconds last lap, so we'll see what Troy can do with that gap.
I dare say it's going to be not that much as they come around. Here's Haga again. Look at him. Oh, another big moment, leaving black lines all over the place, getting out of the corkscrew there. That was on the previous lap, and now here is Troy Corser, courtesy of this moment for Noriyuki Haga out there on the white paint, leaving Mr. Squiggle marks all over the place, and Corser was able to drive it up the inside of him, getting up towards the hill.
Yeah, it's surprising. I think Troy actually thought he was going to be tangled up in that and must have shut it off a little bit because he seemed to lose quite a bit of drive.
Here's Bostrom, though, getting through the corkscrew once again. He has redefined the way you attack the corkscrew here in this second race. Those early couple of laps, the moves he pulled off on Bayliss, Edwards and Haga as well were just breathtaking. He has held the lead ever since as he comes down towards the last corner again, and Corser is closing in on him all the time. What a finish we're going to have here at Laguna.
He's definitely inching away at the gap, there's no doubt about that. He's got plenty of time to make up a gap like that as well, so I think Bostrom might be in a bit of trouble, and then there's going to be a fight on it. It's going to be a big one, I think.
He won't let him get past him easy, that's for sure. Haga falling back into the clutches of Colin Edwards, so whatever tyres Noriyuki obviously went with in the second race have spent themselves pretty early in the second race. The yellow flags flying there on the outside of the track as they come through the infield section.
Bit of
I was going to say something down in the middle of the track there. Someone's had a big moment, and there's a bit of fairing or something left behind on the middle of the track. Luckily enough, well off the racing line. Speaking of the racing line, Troy Corser is right there with Ben Bostrom. Look at that. Only a bike length between them as they come up the hill towards the corkscrew yet again. Can you believe we've got 12 laps still to run here? It seems like they were down to the last couple of laps, but We've still got a long way to go. We're only just past mid-race distance here, and Corsa is there with Bostrom. He snaps it up pretty quickly, leans over the outside, and Corsa goes up the inside to take the lead in race 2 at Laguna. Bostrom looked over his shoulder. Corsa went the other way, and he takes the lead.
Well, go Troy Corsa. I bet Ben Bostrom didn't expect that there. That'd be for sure. Now, Troy Bayliss has slid back. He's 11 seconds behind the leader at the moment, so definitely his Infostrada Ducati's gone off. Now, Noriyuki Haga and Colin Edwards, that'll be an interesting battle as well.
Here it is again. You watch Bostrom as they come through this first right-hander in the infield section here. Corsa, just such good mid-corner speed there, kept it flowing. Look at Bostrom seeing get out of shape. He looked over to the left-hand side, thought, where's Corsa? And he was cutting back to the inside. Bostrom knew he was coming up the inside, but it was too late to do anything. It was goodbye and good luck.
I'll tell you what, there wasn't too much distance between Troy Corsa's front wheel and Ben Bostrom's rear wheel when Bostrom had a bit of a spin up there and just checked the throttle a little bit.
Corsa again, wheel standing as he gets back into the main straight, and they are smiling on the pit lane wall. What a season he's had on the Aprilia, and look at the gap he's already opened up on Ben Bostrom. He's leaving him in his wake.
He will, again, with clear track in front of him. Troy can put the Aprilia exactly where he wants and use the lines he likes that work best for the way he has the Aprilia set up, for the way he likes to ride it, which is very smooth.
Colin Edwards has also been able to go past Noriyuki Haga. See, he holds down third place for the time being. He would be 9 points in a drift in this race to Troy Corsa, so Corsa would close that gap from 30 points coming into this second race up to 21 with still 4 rounds left to go. And I tell you what, if they can win the championship on board this Aprilia after being sacked by Ducati at the end of last year, up against the Ducatis and the brand new V-twin Castro Honda as well, it would be one of the greatest achievements in road racing history in the recent times. I tell you what, it would be the best win ever by a world champion in the World Superbikes, no doubt about that.
Absolutely, and the Aprilia is only in it for the second year as well, Warren. Last year with Pete Goddard, and in its second year of development with Troy Corsa. So phenomenal to go from the drawing board to a World Superbike champion in the space of 2 years.
A lot of people wondering if Troy Corsa had what it takes to again win a world championship after being the 1996 world champion when riding for the Power Horse Ducati team. Well, he has got what it takes and then some, and he is showing that in spades in this 2000 World Superbike Championship. An amazing season for him on board that second year Aprilia. There's Bostrom backing it in once again, getting around this long, slow left-hander. Edwards has opened up a gap, a little one, even if it is that on Haga. There he is. So Haga tried and tried and tried, but has just slipped back through the field, back to 4th place in these last 10 laps or so, and obviously those tyres went off pretty quickly. He is the samurai of slide, but it didn't work on this occasion.
No, definitely may well have made a change between races, Warren, and gone the wrong way as well, possibly with tyre compound or construction, and that's definitely cost him because he had more pace in the first race.
And this is the way Troy Corsa likes to do it. He just loves to get out in front, open up a gap. He just puts lap after lap after lap together in around about the same bracket. He'd be doing high 126s and doing them on his ear. And it wouldn't be a surprise to see him win by 5 or so seconds here, because when he wins by a big margin.
He does like to rub it in, doesn't he?
He's vindictive like that. When he gets the chance, he just paws away from them, and there's nothing they can do. Bostrom sitting there behind him, just watching him disappear, and he's still trying and trying, but nothing on the track is working like this Aprilia is. And he gets it out wide again, up towards the concrete wall on the grandstand there, but he has got it down nailed to the millimetre on this track.
Yeah, when he's got clear track, Warren, he just does put it exactly where he wants it, and that's what works best for the lap times. And that's why he can push so much time so quickly on guys like Ben Bostrom, because when they're in front of him, you know, it's difficult because he can't actually use the lines he wants to use. But when he gets a fresh air and a clear track, he's gone.
He's the king of Superpole, and he's the king of race 2 here at the moment. Still with a few laps left to run. Anything could happen, but Bostrom for the moment, look at that gap. It's opened up in just a short space of time, the last 3 or 4 laps, and Corsa has just poured away from Ben Bostrom as they go up the hill once again. Oh, something came off the Aprilia. What was that?
I definitely don't know what that was, but I'd love to. Hopefully it was something like a toe scraper off Troy's boot. So it'll have absolutely no effect on anything other than he might have a bleeding toe if he's got his foot in the ground around the left-handers.
Well, it doesn't look to have stopped his pace at the moment, but whatever it was a significant size. It was bouncing up the track at good speed. That was an incredible moment.
Yeah.
You don't see that too often.
It looked like it come from down around the lower left-hand sort of foot area.
Can't get a look at it there as he tips into the last corner, but something either coming off Troy Corder's boots, his leathers, or the bike itself. We will wait and find out after the race, but at the moment it certainly hasn't hindered his speed. Here it is again. Let's take a look at this coming up the hill, and there it is. It looked like a toe scraper.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it came out of the
it's a fairly big size though. There it was. Well, it was around about that left foot region, no doubt about that. It's hard to imagine what might have come off the bike in that region of the machine.
There is a gear pad, gear change pad on the left-hand side of the boot, so it's a little bit easier on your toes because, in actual fact, your toes get a hell of a workout. There it is again. Wondering if it's possibly may well have come off the top of his boot, the gear change pad.
That's all you can assume it was. Obviously, the bike is still powering along.
That's it laying there beside the pads. It's too big for any of that. It may well have been a knee scraper. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's hard to imagine how a knee scraper would come off and then bounce along the track the way it did. It looked to be a pretty solid object. It's a very strange incident.
Yeah, big plastic knee scrapers would probably, you'd think they'd probably grind a little bit flatter.
Yeah.
But,
we will find out after the race, I have no doubt, when we hear from Troy Corser in the post-race interview, assuming, of course, he does keep the thing on two wheels and finish on the podium, but take a bit of bad luck for him to not finish on the podium the way he's riding at the moment. There's Troy Bayliss. Aaron Slide has Katsuaki Fujiwara right behind him, so he's not doing such a bad job on board the second of those Suzukis, the Corona Extra Man. He's riding for a place in the team, you would think, next year, and hasn't done such a bad job of it in recent times. But Troy Bayliss, he must be absolutely gutted at the moment, starting from pole position, and he has been nowhere near the action in this second race.
No, definitely his bike's gone off. It didn't look like it had any speed before, so he might have settled down and worked out how to ride it, maybe got over the problem. Might have been giving his rear tyre too hard a time, and it pretty much cooked and just needed a rest.
What a start to the race we had as we look out the rear of Aaron Slights. 111 Castrol Honda towards the number 9 Suzuki GSXR 750 of Katsuaki Fujiwara. We've got 4 laps left to run, just less than 4 laps now, and Bostrom slipping back into the clutches of Edwards, and Hager still there also. Here goes Bostrom in front of Edwards and Hager. Well, they've got time if they're good enough. Bostrom, of course, has worked out those times pretty hard. Look at that. The gap between Corser and Bostrom, once again, is now 6.3 seconds. I'm going to do a study between this round and the next round and work out all the margins of Troy Corser's wins over the years, because when he does win, he wins by this margin. He so rarely wins by fractions of a second. It's either a whole bunch of time or he doesn't win at all. I mean, you go cast your mind back, and I think his closest victory in recent years was against Carl Fogarty at Phillip Island in race 2 last year. He had a good victory in race 1, even though it narrowed in the last couple of laps on that occasion at Phillip Island. Then he won by just 5 thousandths of a second in race 2. Speaking of thousandths of a second, there is Hager, not that far behind Colin Edwards now. And if he could get back in front of him, it also would help his cause as far as the championship goes. And Troy Corser would be delirious to know that Hager is about to put some pressure on Edwards for 3rd place. He might knock him off the podium, the Samurai of Slide.
He could well do, and I think there's a fair chance of that, actually, Warren, because I think Hager settled down, let his tyres cool off a little bit so that he could still have a go before the end of the race at Colin Edwards and Bostrom.
He was backing it into the left-hander once again there with less than 3 laps left to run now. Edwards was able to open up that gap as far as the distance on the track is concerned, getting across the top of the hill through the sweeping turn 1. But now through this twisty section, Hager is so good, and especially getting up through the corkscrew and keeping it running down in towards Rainy Curve.
Yeah, down the tight line into the left-hander Rainy Curve, Warren. That makes up quite a bit of time because it's a so much shorter line, because it's fairly long corner, so he'd be picking up yards just on the line he takes.
And that gap between Edwards and Bostrom has come down by 0.7 of a second in the last couple of laps. I don't know if they've got time to get to Bostrom, and when they do get to him, of course, they have to try and find a way past him, and that has been no easy feat this afternoon in the second race. Only Troy Corser has had an answer to that problem. And here's Hager running it in the inside, just as you said, Magoo, up the inside at Rainy Curve and back into third place.
Good on him, go Hager. Now he needs to get Bostrom and grab 4 more points for second place instead of third, and then championship's definitely well and truly alive.
There's no doubt about that. Ben Bostrom holding down second place for the time being, but it is Troy Corser out in front doing a sensational job, leading them here in race 2 at Laguna Seca. We lost pictures for a moment there, but we're back on track, thank goodness, because I was about to have a heart attack, Magoo.
Well, it wouldn't be good at this stage of the race, would it, Warren? Bit of good action, definitely, because I think Hager, he's got to desperately try to get Bostrom. And, you know, we've seen Hager bridge some incredible gaps in short spaces of time before. And I'll tell you, if Bostrom gets the shakes, Hager will be there in a flash.
Here he is, running it out of the corkscrew, keeping the power on. Edwards just opened the door for him, and Hager was through in the blinking of an eye. And now he has Bostrom firmly in his sights. We've got just over 1 lap left to run as they come around Rainy Curve again. Look at Hager hang off the side of the thing and just make it go around the corner. He can turn it on a 10-cent piece.
Yep, he just swings himself off the side, gets on the throttle, and lets it all hang out, basically, and great to watch.
And here they are again, coming around this last corner for the second last time, and it is Bostrom holding off Hager. That's the gap he'll have to try and make up, as they've got just less than 1 lap left to run now at Laguna Seca. Corser is off out in front, doing a merry dance with less than a lap to go, looking for 25 points and looking for his 5th win of the season. What a season he's having. Before the start of the season, he was hoping for perhaps 1 super pole and maybe a couple of podiums. Well, he has just reassessed those goals now, and now it's the World Championship he is very definitely after. And look at him pour away from him. He's about to lap Rob Alm on board that Ducati, who hasn't done such a bad job at various times this year also. He's got just the corkscrew to go, and then 3 more corners after that. A back marker. It is Bostrom going underneath Lucio Fettuccini there on board the number 11 Ducati. Bostrom gets past. Hager will also. So these men out in front have been running a very fast pace in comparison to the men who aren't that far back in the field, but they are being lapped here at Laguna Seca, hand over fist. Hager, he might not be close enough, but he's going to try as they come around Rainy Curve here. He's got 2 more corners to pull it off. Perhaps a last desperate move at the very last corner.
It is going to be definitely a last gasp, and
Bostrom ran it wide. Here comes Troy Corser, wheel standing it across the finish line. He wins race 2 in Laguna Seca. What a victory for the man from Wollongong. Hager went past Ben Bostrom, who absolutely choked over the last couple of corners, and Hager just came at him, and Bostrom had no answer. Hager takes 2nd place to pick up 20 points. What a ride over the last couple of laps. He'll be delirious about that. Bostrom will finish in 3rd place, and Colin Edwards in 4th, and the men behind him in the championship have closed the gap yet again. But Troy Corser wins for the 3rd time at Laguna Seca. Here it is at the last corner. Well, Bostrom just ran wide. He almost ran off the track. What was he doing?
Bostrom has just choked on the last lap, on the last corner. He has just frozen, gone hard, I guess, or whatever. Couldn't think. Certainly didn't pull on the brake and turn it in the early into that last turn, and Hager just basically rode by. Hager couldn't believe it. He got that delivered on a silver platter.
Well, Hager was trying, and Bostrom knew he was coming, but wow, he had an awful moment getting into the last corner, and he just gifted Hager 2nd place. He was waving to the fans. So is Troy Corser. He's got the Australian flag. The Southern Cross will be flying at Laguna Seca yet again. What a circuit it's been for him over the years. He's only missed the podium once now in his time in the World Superbikes. 3 wins, 5 second placings and a 3rd placing, and his worst result there is a 6th in race 1 last year. Incredible record here at Laguna Seca for Troy Corser. But Colin Edwards, well, he will know that his lead has shrunk. It was 30 points coming into the 2nd race at Laguna Seca this morning, and now with a big advantage, 12 points that Troy Corser will pick up on Colin Edwards. It is now just 18 points between them at the top of the rankings.
Well, that's what we want to see going into the final half, or final third, if you like, almost now, Warren, of the World Superbike Championship. And Troy Corser certainly making it come alive, as is Noriyuki Haga.
A marvellous ride once again from Troy Corser. Gave them a lesson in just putting together consistent lap after lap after lap. And I still can't believe the way Ben Bostrom just choked coming around that last corner. He did a Frankie Keeley at Donington when Frankie led, gave up a victory to Neil Hodgson in the closing stages at Donington on the very last couple of laps. There's Corser's margin, 7.7 seconds. It took him half the race distance to get past Bostrom, and once he got past him, he just screamed away. Haga gets 20 points for second, Bostrom will get 16 for third, and Colin Edwards is really just mired in this slump at the moment, even though he's gone back to the motor they started the year on board the Castrol Honda. It didn't work for him at Laguna Seca, especially in this second race, and well, his lead is shrinking all the time. And I tell you what, if Noriyuki Haga does eventually get back the 45 points, well, Edwards will be finding himself in all sorts of trouble, because Haga will lead the championship. There it is at the moment, though, with Haga's 45 points missing for the time being. Edwards leads by just 18 from Troy Corser there in second place. Haga is there in third place on 232. Very much a factor still in this championship. Keeley, Bostrom, Yanagawa, Bayliss and Fujiwara. So Ben Bostrom, the big improver over the last couple of rounds, he'll be on the podium in this second race. And well, the locals seem to be pretty happy with it, but wow, they would have liked to see him pick up second place. I can't believe the way he just rode off the last